is one of the component of Hive architecture. Uh, as I told you in the last lecture that it is the central repository that stores the metadata information about the structure, the tables and the partitions. Right? So there are different kinds of metastores or the different kinds of deployments of the metastores, and they are categorized into three. One is the embedded metastore, second is the local metastore, and third is the remote metastore. Right? The difference between all these three is how the metastore will be implemented, right? And where it will be implemented, whether on the local machine or some external machines, whether on a single, whether for a single connection or multiple connections. Right? So accordingly, they are categorized. So first of all, first metastore that we will discuss today is the embedded metastore. Now, embedded metastore is the default metastore in Hive. Right? So if you install Hive on your machine, as I told you, you require Hadoop architecture, Hadoop installation on your machines to use Hive, because Hive works on the top of Hadoop. Right? So it takes SQL queries and convert into MapReduce jobs. That is the main functionality of this particular component. Right? So you require Hadoop architecture, Hadoop installation on your machines, and then on that we will install Hive. Right? By default, the default installation or the default repository, the metastore that will be implemented on your machine is embedded, right? Which is implemented on the Derby database. So the default database for this particular embedded metastore is the Derby, right? And the other are the local and the remote. Now, in the case of embedded metastore or in the case of Derby, it can hold only single occurrence, right? Single connection. So if you would like to have multiple connections, then you have to change your database and move to the either local data store or to the remote data store, metastore, by using another database which can handle multiple queries, multiple connections like MySQL, right? So accordingly, they are different in the way the database is used, in the way they are implemented in the environment. Uh, these are the parameters on the which they can be categorized. Right? So first of all, let us see what is embedded. As I told you, it is the default metastore. Right? It is the default metastore in Hive. Right? And the this metastore service runs in the same JVM as the Hive service. Fine. So this metastore and this driver or the Hive service, they run on this same JVM. So there is no separate JVM for this metastore in case of embedded, and the metastore as well as the Hive services or the drivers, they run on a same JVM. Fine. So it uses this Derby. So this is the database. Derby is the by default database which it uses, embedded metastore uses, uh, which stores the data on the local file system in this mode, right? So there is a limitation of this, as I told you, that Derby database can access the database file on the disk at any one time. Fine. So that means only one Hive session could be open at a time. So the limitation here is the Derby database can access the database file which are stored on disk at any one time. Right? So that means multiple Hive sessions cannot be possible. So this is the limitation of this. So if you are into, as we have discussed in Hadoop, that we have a production deployment also, as well as for education purpose deployment also. So if you are learning Hadoop and it is not for the production purpose, then you can go with the embedded Metastore, where you have a single machine cluster, and you have installed a single machine cluster on, you have installed Hadoop on that single machine cluster, and then we can go with this embedded Metastore, where we will not change the database. Whatever the database is there, like in this case Derby, we will accept that, and we can write our queries on this particular database. Right? So this is only for testing. If you are learning, right? It is not recommended for the production purposes. Right? So this is the embedded data store. Now the second kind of data store is the local data store. Fine. So Hive basically, as I have told you in the initial lectures, that it's a data warehouse framework. Fine. So it doesn't prefer a single session. There should be multiple sessions in case of Hive. Right? But if I go with the embedded, it is only possible here is that the single session is possible, Hive session is possible, which is not recommended for a database warehouse based framework like Hive. Right? So to overcome the limitation of the embedded Metastore, this local Metastore was introduced. Right? So it allows many Hive sessions. Right? So this is the one advantage here we have in case of local Metastore, because in case of our embedded Metastore, there is only one Hive session is possible because of the Derby database, which can access the database files at any one time. Right? So that means it removes that limitation, and it allows many sessions. Right? That means many users can use the Metastore at the same time. Right? So how to achieve this? So in this case, we will be using this MySQL database, and which is a JDBC compliant database, and which runs in a separate JVM. Fine. So in this case, earlier we can see that we have a driver which is also running using the same JVM as the Metastore. But here, this particular case, we can achieve the multiple Hive sessions because it runs in a separate JVM, right? On the same machine or on the separate other machine, right? So that's why here we have the possibility of multiple Hive sessions, right? So this is the important thing about this local Metastore, that we have this MySQL database. We have replaced the Derby database by MySQL database, which is a JDBC compliant database, and we can have separate JVMs which can run on the same machines or on a separate machines. Fine. So if you have separate Java virtual machines, we can run multiple instances of the connections with the Metastore. So that's why here there is a possibility of multiple Hive sessions. Now the third kind of Metastore is the remote Metastore. Now in this case, if you see, here we have every Metastore. Like in this case, every Metastore, it runs at its own separate JVM. Right? So in this case, in the case of remote Metastore, every Metastore is having its own JVM, which is not shared with the JVM of the Hive services. Right? So each Metastore runs on its own separate Java virtual machine, right? Not in the Hive service JVM. Right? So if some other process wants to communicate with the Metastore server, they can communicate using the Thrift Network API. So I have already discussed what is a Thrift applications. So if any other process they want to communicate with the Metastore, they can communicate by using the Thrift network APIs. Right? So we can also have one or more Metastore servers available in the network. So remote here means we can have local as well as remote also, where we install the Metastore on some separate machines in the network, so that we could provide a more availability. Fine. And there is also a better manageability and the security which of the database is there, because only client does not require to have share the database credentials with each and every Hive user to access the Metastore data, right? Because they are separated and they are stored in the different servers, so they can have access to those Metastores by their own credentials, right? So we can have such kind of facilities in case of remote Metastore, that we can have more availability. We have better manageability and security. And security. So the major difference between this local and the remote is, in case of local, the JVM is shared by the Metastore, but here every Metastore is having their own separate JVM, and this is not the same as the Hive services JVM. Right? In addition to MySQL, this Hive it supports Oracle. Also, it supports MS SQL Server also, right? So we can have these databases instead of MySQL also. Right? So we can configure that. Okay. So these are the three kind of Metastores which are there in case of Hive. So we can configure them as per our requirement. Right? So if we are going into the production deployment, then we can go with either local or remote. But if you are only learning, then we can go with the embedded Metastore, which is the default Metastore, and the database is that. Right? So now we will see the working of this Hadoop, Hive environment. So there are two components. One is the Hadoop, and second is the Hive. So Hive, it works on top of the Hadoop, right? So here we have a user interface. Here our user is sitting and sending the SQL queries. Right? So इसका mic on है, please. Mic off कर लो जिसका भी है. So as this user, it will submit its query by using the user interface to the driver. Right? So this one is called execute query. Right? So the user interface, this user interface call the execute interface to the driver, right? Or submit the query of the user to the driver. Right? Now this driver accepts the query, creates a session handler for the query, and passes the query to the compiler, right? And for generating the execution plan. So this driver, it will send this to, which is the get plan, to the compiler, right? For executing the query. Now what compiler does, sends the metadata request to the Metastore. Now this compiler because query is sent from user interface to the driver. Driver will prepare a plan and send it to the compiler. Compiler will get metadata from the metastore. So this is third is get metadata. Okay, so this compiler, it will communicate with metastore to get data, relevant data from the metastore, because Hive, it stores its data in the metastore. Right? Now, then metastore, in the fourth step, it will send the metadata to the compiler. So this fourth is send metadata. So there is a request from the compiler to the metastore to get the metadata, and then metastore respond back with the required metadata to the compiler. Now compiler will use this metadata for performing type checkings, melting analysis on the expression in the query tree, right? And things like that, and then it will send the plan. So the fifth is send plan. It will send the plan to the driver. The compiler send the generated execution plan to the driver. Right? So this is the sending of. In the fifth step, it will send the execution plan to the driver, to this driver. Now, after receiving execution plan, so it will send execution plan to this driver. So after getting this execution plan, now driver sends the execution plan to the execution engine. So this is the execution plan that is received from the compiler to the driver. Now in the sixth step, it will send the execution plan to the execution engine. Right? So this is the sixth step. Now in the seventh step, it will submit the job to the map reducer. Right? So this execution plan, it will communicate with this, and it will submit the jobs to the job tracker. If you jobs to the map reduce here, all these, they are represented with step number 7, because they are not directly represented. They are shown as a highlighted line, but ultimately execution plan, what it does, execution engine send these stages, because if you remember, I have told you that in the compiler says it generates a DAG. It's trained directed acyclic graph. So execution engine will send these stages of DAG to the appropriate components. So that's why they are shown as a highlighted line. Right? So that is the seventh step. So each task, either it is a mapper or the reducer, there is a decentralized serializer associated with the table to get the immediate output in order to read from the HDFS file. And so everything which is required to generate the output, right? So that will be done at the execution engine, right? So then this 9th and 8th, these are the send steps. 8th and 9th, these are the send results steps, right? So whatever the query which is submitted by the user, they are generated by this execution engine and respond back to the user interface or the user, right? So then driver, it will send it to the driver, and then driver will send it to the user interface, right? So this is how the process will be done in case of this, right? So this is the jobs which are there. It will submit, seventh one is submit jobs to map reduce, right? Ultimately the task of Hive was to accept SQL queries. So user here is sending SQL queries. All these components, they will work in collaboration, and they will submit the job to generate the map reduce. And after doing all the things, the result will be compiled and send it back to the user. So this is how the complete working of the Hive is done, or the execution of the query is done in case of Hive. Right? The next topic is what are the various data types which are supported in case of Hive. Right? Primarily, they are categorized into two categories: primitive data types and complex data types. Right? Now, primitive data types are basically numeric data types, date and time data types, string data type, miscellaneous data types, and further there are number of categories of numeric data types and other data types. I will discuss in the next slide. Similarly, we have a complex data types also, like array, maps, structured, and union. These are similar to C. And so these data types are similar to C. Okay. Now, what are the other categories which fall under numeric or data types? Let us discuss all those data types here. In case of primitive data types, the numeric data types is further divided into, categorized into integers, integral data types, and floating point data types. Right? And then integral are further classified or subcategorized into tiny int, small int, integer, or big int. Right? So by default, this is the data type which is used in case of Hive, but the difference here is the tiny int, it takes 1 byte. Right? So this is 1 B of storage. This small, it takes 2 bytes. This integer, it takes 4 bytes, and this big int, it takes 8 bytes. So by default is this, but if you have a data which is smaller than the 4 bytes, then you can go with tiny int, small int, or tiny int or small int. In that case, you have to put symbols behind the integer value. For example, let's say we have data and 50 you have want to declare, and this data types, it takes only less than 1 byte. So we can put y behind it, or we can put 50s behind it. Right? So this way we can further specify which type we would like to generate by, but by default integer is the default type. But if your data is smaller than this 4 bytes, you can also do it like this. Right? With the number, you can specify this character. So it will say it is a tiny integer and it will take 1 byte of it. Similarly, we have inverse floating. We have different kinds of data types: floats, double precision, decimal, and numeric. Now these two are similar. In case of Hive 3.0.0, decimal numeric is similar to decimal. Right? So this numeric data type is similar to the decimal data type. In Hive 3.0.0 onwards. So here float, it takes 4 bytes, single precision, the floating point number, it takes 8 byte, double precision floating point numbers. We have here double precision also. So it was available from Hive 2.2.0 onwards. Fine. Double precision. Fine. So it is a allies of this double. Then we have decimal data type. So here in case of decimal, we can also define the precision and scale of the data type. So this way we can use this data by defining the precision and scale of the decimal data type. Right? And then numeric is there, which is similar to the decimal type. Similarly, we have some further subcategories of date and time, like timestamp, date, and interval. So these are the various data type which are used to declare the date variables which are related to the date or time. Right? Then we have strings. Under string, we have string category, varchar, and character. So these are the three kinds of data types which exist in this particular category. Now, strings can be defined by single quotes or double quotes. So within single quotes or double quotes, we can define the string. Varchar is a data type of different lengths. So it is not fixed. So the length of the varchar is between 1 to 65535. Right? So this is the length of this particular data type. So it can vary from 1 to varchar, whereas in char, which is a fixed length, it's a fixed length data type, which character, and its value is 255. So according to our requirement, we can use any of these. Then we have Boolean also, which takes true or false. Fine. So it can store true or false value. It is binary is basically an array of bytes. So it is a array of bytes. And so these are the various data types which comes under the primitive data type. We have Boolean as well as binary, which is an array of bytes. Right? So these are all are the primitive data types. As per our requirement, we can use any of these data type while creating tables in Hive. Right? Then we have complex data type also, like array, map, structure, and union. These two are similar to C structure and union. Right? Array, we all know, it's an order sequence of similar data elements. Right? So we can declare arrays also in case of Hive by using this array keyword. Then we have this map. Right? So map is a collection of key value pairs. Right? So it's a collection of key value pairs. We have to define a key as well as the value for that key, and then we can also access them by their indexes. Right? So this is another data type in this, and structure and unions, they can take multiple data elements with multiple data types. Right? So this is similar to C, so that's why we will not discuss much in this.